But then tea cake came, prancing around her where she was, and the song of the sigh flew out the window and lit in the top of the pine trees. Tea cake with the sun for a shawl. Of course he wasn't dead. He could never be dead until she herself had finished feeling and thinking. The kiss of his memory made pictures of love and light against the wall. Here was peace. She pulled in her horizon like a great fish net, pulled it from around the waist of the world and draped it over her shoulder. So much life in its meshes. She called in her soul to come and see. This is why you reread books. This is why you reread books. This is why you reread books. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back of the church. This is why you reread books, because that ending is a level of greatness that you aren't even going to grasp the first time. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Shelby in the Book Club. Per the title of this video, you will see that I am reading Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and I wanted to vlog my experience. I have read this book multiple times over the years of my life, and it's been on my mind lately, so I wanted to document what reading this is like as a 30-year-old in a space in my life where I am starting anew and, just on a different life journey. I already know that I love the book, but I think reading books at different places in your life, you will be able to pick up different things from it. So I want to see what Miss Hurston has for me at this particular time in my life. So this vlog will be me reading and reviewing Their Eyes Were Watching God. I hope you enjoy. So I'm gonna stop my reading for the night so that I could shower, and I need to eat something again. But a few thoughts. Zora Neale Hurston is a genius. I really enjoyed the foreword in this. Sidebar, recently I read something or saw a TikTok or something where people saying that they don't read the forewords or the author notes or the epilogues in books, and baby, that is probably why y'all are not enjoying books at a higher level, because the things that you're missing are probably in the epilogues, the author notes, and the forewords and prologues and all of that. You should read those things. They're important. I read about 20 pages. More than that, including the author's note, which is written by Edwidge DeCat. I know I'm pronouncing her name wrong. I apologize. I actually saw her. The ADHD is fighting back. I actually saw her with Jesmyn Ward when Let Us Ascend came out. Anyway, there are so many things that like young Shelby did not really pick up on. So I really feel like I'm reading this book for the first time. And the scene with young Jamie under the pear tree, it's so well written. It's so well written. And like the aloofness of her as a child, right? She's 16, and then for her grandmother to see her kissing the boy and being like, nope, it's time, you got to get married off, like, and you have to do this because somebody needs to take care of you, right? And I think it made me think of my mother and how she doesn't necessarily understand a lot of the things that I've made, like decisions that I've made for myself, and like why I haven't ever just done the quote unquote right thing for the sake of surviving versus focusing on how I feel. And I know, because I know this story, I know that that's where this is going to go in a sense, right? Because she makes certain decisions around her first husband. But listening to Nanny say to her, like, I didn't have these choices, right? I didn't have a choice because I was born a slave and I just had to do certain things. And although you don't understand why I want you to do this, it's for your betterment so that you can be bigger and better than me, right? Like, so you can be bigger and better than me. But I think what I immediately feel in turn, right, is y'all can't live the lives that y'all wanted to live through us. You can't do that. You just can't. So that's interesting. I think I need to sit with that for a little bit. And even listening to Nanny's story, right? And how Nanny is Nanny can see how pivotal of a moment it is for Janie to become a woman, right? And how important it is. And she kind of wants to place her feet, and she knows that, like, I don't have much more time to place her steps in a certain way. Like, I can't do that forever because I'm getting old and I gotta make sure that my baby is okay. But it's also like, it's okay. It's okay for Janie to be aloof a little bit. But then we have to consider time too. We gotta consider time. We gotta consider race. We have to consider so many things. But, like, how quickly she was swept up from being a girl laying under the tree, fascinated by nature and how the things shift, and understanding that the tug and pull of life, and the bee taking what it needs from the flower, how that is a representation of marriage. Like, that whole thing, to her leaning over the fence to kiss the boy, like, so many things. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I need to eat something again. That's the joys of being on a sick and shut in list. There's so much stuff we're not gonna talk about, but I gotta make sure that I eat enough every day. That's the thing now. So yeah, I'm gonna go through that. The thing that I forgot to mention before I really go and get my life in order, a lot of the language that is used reminds me of James by Percival Everett, and how he uses language, and how that might be an ode to Zora Neale Hurston more than it is to Mark Twain. Something to think about. You are looking at this part of this video like, Shelby, you is dressed to go skiing. It's June, girl. Mind your business here. Mind the business that pays you. Because I keep it so cold in this room, you could probably hang meat in here. That's my business, ain't yours. I have finished Their Eyes Were Watching God by the great Zora Neale Hurston. And you guys leading up to this have seen some of my thoughts. And now I'm here to kind of round it off. What was the experience like? It was amazing. I think this book is like a woman's rite of passage. Not only Black women, but women in general. I think there are so many things that Janie goes through that are things that all women face. Obviously, an emphasis on Black women. But it is such a journey through womanhood that, as a woman in the first year of her 30s, I can appreciate Janie's perspective on not just life, but recognizing her trauma, how that trauma has affected her, how she feels about that, and just like her journey of being seen, and how a lot of the relationships that she was in wasn't really about her. Well, it was not even wasn't about her. It wasn't about her being in a relationship, I should say. It wasn't about the men. It wasn't about that, but about her figuring out how to love herself enough to make certain choices. I want to read it again. I want to read it again. My friend Sarah, who I mentioned a few videos back, is sending me another copy that she found because when she saw that I was reading it, she was telling me some of the things that she annotated, and we were able to have a very good dialogue about this book, which I absolutely loved that experience as well. It kind of added to this in so many ways for me. So I have another copy coming that is the same edition that she has, so that we can have the same copy that I will also annotate. I did annotate this. I didn't put any tabs in it. I'll probably put tabs in the other one. So I'll probably be doing another reread fairly soon, just to annotate that copy and pick up on things that I may have missed and so on and so forth. Obviously 5-star read. So just to kind of sum it up, Their Eyes Were Watching God follows Janie Crawford through her life and her relationships, right? So we meet Janie when she is 16. Well, no, we meet Janie when she grown. She in her 40s. She coming home. She walking down the road, and Janie is coming back, and the town is talking about her because Miss Girl Janie is fine as hell in these overalls. You hear me? Okay, body is what do the children say? Body is tea. Okay, she's giving body in these overalls, hair down her back. Okay, mama is fine, even in her quote unquote old age, because you know back in the before times, people wasn't living to see 25, let alone 40. And her friend comes over, and her friend is like, you know, they out there sitting in front yard talking all this mess about you. And Janie was like, look, I'll tell you my story, and you could tell them if you want to, and it'll be, I think what she said, she was like, it'll be like I'm saying it because my tongue is in my friend's mouth. Like you getting it exactly from me. So whatever. She tells the story from when she is a teenager, which is why I said we meet Janie when she is a teen. We don't meet her there. We meet grown Janie. But she starts her story from when she is a teen, and she talks about her first marriage when she was young and how she did not like that marriage because Janie wanted love, right? But her grandmother, Nanny was born a slave. Nanny had a view of what she thought Janie's life should be like, based on what she wanted for herself or what she saw as what the high life was. And her only example of that was the mistress of the plantation sitting high on the front porch in her swing, not doing anything. So Nanny wanted Janie to have some sort of protection. Janie did not want that. She was young. She wanted to be wanted. Her understanding of love was this depiction of a bee and a blossom, which beautiful writing. The writing in this book blows my mind, and it puts me out. I'll go into in the end all of the different books that came to my mind as I was reading this. But the writing style, poetic, beautiful, but still so rooted in Black culture. Like a lot of it reminded me of sitting on the porch as a kid with my papa and listening to him and his sisters talk to each other. Like, beautiful. So Janie gets married the first time. Logan was an upstanding man in the beginning, right? Maybe not even in the beginning, the whole time. I think he had an idea of what love was. Janie had an idea of what love was. For him, he was older than her, and he felt like love, was taking care of, oh my goodness, love was taking care of her. So he was trying to do small gestures like chopping the wood and bringing it to her in the kitchen and little things like that that other women just do on their own. Whereas Janie wanted to be pined after. Like, make me feel something. I don't care you bringing that wood in the house. I want to feel wanted. And she didn't want him and didn't feel like he wanted her. Like, it was a placeholder, and she was doing this thing out of pity, right? So then she finds her second husband, Jody walking down the street. Jody kind of attractive, but he got swag. That's what got her. He got swag, and Jody was talking that talk to her. Okay, Jody was like, "Hey, gal, you fine a little bit, and if you was mine, I'll show you a thing or two or whatever." But he was very clear with what his life goals were. He wanted to be a man with a big voice, right? And she kind of goes back into the situation of, she thought she was getting what she wanted. She wasn't. He also had similar expectations of her that her grandmother did, to kind of sit and shut up and do as he said, and to kind of be taken care of while he was the center of the show. And it leads to her finding her voice, right? It leads to her being like, bro, I kind of hate Nanny because I lived my life based on what she wanted me to do and not what I wanted to do. And even when I did take a chance and kind of go after the second marriage because I thought it was what I wanted, I still ended up spending all of this time going based off of my elders' wants and needs and their idea of what living is, instead of just going with my first thought and doing living for me, right? Because one of the quotes in here was, she didn't read books, so she didn't know that she was the world and the heavens boiled down to a drop. She didn't even know what she was capable of because she was doing what they said was the safe route, right? And another quote is, hold on, let me find it because it's towards the end. So it says, it's a known fact, Phoebe. You got to go there to know there. Your papa and your mama and nobody else can't tell you and show you. Two things everybody's got to do for themselves, for themselves. They got to go to God and they got to find out about living for themselves. So it's like with her second marriage, she kind of comes into herself, right? And he kicked the bucket. And then she meets Tea Cake. Tea Cake was smooth, boy. Do you hear me? He was smooth, and he knew what he wanted, and he went after it. And even when she was still doing that thing of living by other people's standards, right? Because there is an age gap. She was like 12 years older than him. She finally was able to experience love from a place of her own wants and desires. She wasn't thinking about Nanny. She wasn't thinking about nobody else's reputation or how they felt or whatever the case may be. She was able to just kind of live in her own kind of bliss. And they had a time. Right? I do think, looking at it from today's standards, although Tea Cake was very smooth, walking red flag. Okay, he was love bombing this lady. He wasn't taking no for it. Don't show up at my house after I done told you to get. Cause he sure just sit. She came home from the store and he in a hammock in her on her front porch. Baby, don't. I will call the proper authorities. Don't do that. Carry your ass on when I say. But it wasn't about him. It wasn't about him. And not that she didn't love him, right? But it was really just about this journey of finding her comfort as a woman and to be able to be in this relationship, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Because she decided to, because she chose to, which I think is really powerful. I think there are a lot of things in this book that are very modern concepts, right? From the argument with her and Logan, and kind of identifying like they both wanted to be with each other, but they weren't communicating, like realizing that a lot of people have an idea of what love is and they expect others to kind of just morph into that thing, which is nuts. But I think it's such a modern concept in a book that was written during a time when people did not marry for love. Like they didn't marry for love. What was a healthy relationship back in the before times, you know? I mean, hell, it's hard to come by a healthy relationship in the today times. But anyway, from that to I believe it's in chapter 9 where she realizes her trauma, right? That I felt like is so, you know, modern, for her to be able to, for Janie to be able to look and say like, oh yeah, this is where all of this is coming from. Like, these are such modern concepts. Like, and not only for her to recognize them, but to act on them in her own ways was amazing to me. So, okay. It says, she hated her grandmother and had hidden it from herself all these years under a cloak of pity. She had been getting ready for her great journey to the horizons in search of people. It was important to all the world that she should find them and they find her. But she had been whipped like a cur dog and run off down a back road after things. It was all according to the way you see things. Some people could look at a mud puddle and see an ocean with ships, but Nanny belonged to that other kind that loved to deal in scraps. Here, Nanny had taken the biggest thing God ever made, the horizon. For no matter how far a person can go, the horizon is still way beyond you, and pinched it into such a little bit of a thing that she could tie it about her granddaughter's neck, tight enough to choke her. She hated the old woman who had twisted her so in the name of love. I love this book. I love this book, and I think that you should be reading it every so often as you journey through womanhood, because you're going to pick up different things that I just think are beneficial. A few books that came to mind. Being tall is great because I don't have to stand up to do this. Beloved. It's actually kind of ironic that I decided to read Beloved again right before my surgery, like a month or so before my surgery. The universe is funny in that way. But I think these two books kind of go hand in hand. Oh, it's funny, they're both maroon. I think these kind of go hand in hand because they're both journeys through trauma in a sense, right? From the same sort of perspective. Whereas Beloved gives you the after effects of slavery like directly in your face. I think the relationship to Baby Suge is very similar to the relationship that Janie has with Nanny. And she is living in her trauma. Like, the house is a manifestation of all of her trauma. two different women navigating their trauma very differently in times that are not super far off from each other. Another one that immediately came to mind is The Blueprint. If you were part of my book club, if you are a part of my book club, this was the first book club pick back. The Blueprint by Regiana Rashad. I know that this book, the blurbs mention kindred, it mentions The Handmaid's Tale. Janie walked so Celine could run. Janie walked so Celine could run. I think we could kind of have a bunch of different conversations about how Their Eyes Are Watching God, and how Janie Crawford is the archetype for a lot of Black female characters in different kind of stages of wherever Janie could have been, right? Like if Janie did not have this and she had that, if Janie had made this decision versus that one. And it's funny because when I was reading The Blueprint, there is a section where Celine comes across a man named Memphis. And the first thing that came to my mind was Memphis is her tea cake. Memphis is her tea cake. Down to them fighting and having to figure out their feelings. But it's like, spoiler alert a bit as far as The Blueprint goes. Celine has this moment where she understands that what she has with Memphis is not love. It is the power of choice. It's the power of choice. It's to be able to decide to be here and to be in this moment and to feel and to be close and to enjoy that closeness, and maybe to get up and leave the next day and never see Memphis again, right? Janie wasn't that far ahead. Okay, Janie wasn't there. Where Janie came from, she won't try to be no whore. All right. But that's what I mean, where it's like you can see Janie even in Henriette in The Blueprint. Like, it's just, I guess what I'm saying is you probably should read all three of these together. You should probably read all three of these together, because it will do something for you. It'll do something for you. And I didn't finish this one yet, but I'm pretty sure Zambi by Audre Lorde probably could be added to this pile. Just from the bits that I have read from this, I'm sure it could be added to the pile from the perspective of women tackling their sexuality from the LGBTQI plus community. Okay. So yeah, I think that's everything. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. I will make more like them. Without further ado, if no one told you today, I almost forgot what I was about to say. I'm sleepy. I'm hungry. It's late. I had to come and talk to y'all right in the moment. But if no one has told you today, I love you. You're kind. You're smart. You are important. Bye, friend.